The sense of hopelessness is palpable, and it's time we confront it head on. On Z Roundtable today, we'll delve into the root causes of this hopelessness, explore potential solutions, and most importantly, amplify the voices of those who need to be heard. We'll explore the complex emotions and experiences of Ghana's youth and discuss ways to rekindle hope and shape the brighter future for the youth of this beautiful country we call home. So yes, that is actually the setting for today's discussion. And to do justice to this very important topic, I have here with me Kofi Ansan, who is an entrepreneur, and then CEO of Melo Technologies is back in the studio. He is Isaac Aboa. He's here. I don't know, today I hope he tones down the punches. It's a Friday. Let's all go home in a very safe manner before we get into trouble. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Z in the Morning.
Thank you, Jerry.
Kofi, let's start with you. I mean, Ike, we know where he will go with this, so let's start. Let's start with you, Kofi. How's the week been? How's the week been? I mean,
well, it's been good.
So you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. When I read this whole preamble, do you recognize it as this being the Ghana you find yourself in? Is there really a hopelessness that is palpable?
Well, I think that description is apt.
It is?
Yes, it is. I mean, there's a lot of hopelessness around. People don't think that they can make it here in Ghana. Justifiably so, but I also believe that, there's a saying that all hope isn't lost. And so even though there is the negative, which we're faced with, the reality, there's also a part where if we tune or challenge, channel our strengths, we can overcome what we're calling hopelessness.
The current state of Ghana's economy and its impact on the youth. Isaac, you have been in this space. You've been vociferous about what is the current state and how is it impacting the youth from where you sit?
I think, as he rightly said, and good morning to our listeners. I'm happy to be here again. You can see it's in the air, right? When you speak to the ordinary person on the streets, is a sense of hopelessness, is a loss of faith in our governance, in our government, in our leadership of the country. And I think the massive exodus of people, especially young people, out of the country in seeking greener pastures is the most evident indicator of how people badly want to leave the shores of this country to find hope anywhere. And I think hope is really the descriptor of this conversation. It's not as if that it is just a failing economy. It is one where people just do not believe anymore that they can make it here. And when you have a country which is fundamentally built on the strengths of its young people, right, who are the working populace, and you find that they don't want to participate in growing the economy anymore, it is a very grim situation, because what happens is that it is even beyond people who want to leave. Those here, they are not putting their best efforts here. They are getting depressed, and I don't think we're talking about the mental health repercussions. A lot of people. I was recently engaging someone in these conversations, and I told them that you should just look at the inflationary numbers, and you should look at the rise in cost of living from 2020 to now, which has almost tripled. And then juxtapose that with the stability in our all incomes, collective incomes. So really, right, how is somebody that was earning 2,000 cedis in 2020, let's say in July 2020, who in the aftermath of the COVID and the downturn of the economy now has to spend for the same amount of money they receive twice, sometimes thrice of their expenditure? What has happened to them? What has happened to them is that they have cut out every single expenditure that would bring them joy. You know, right? Ghanaians in the evening cannot buy their Indomies anymore. People cannot go out on Saturdays anymore. So you literally have to be living on the edge of your income And that means that you take away any kind of excitement that people have. You take away any kind of thing that would really ignite their energy. So there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of passion, and energy is so important. You know, when people meet me and we start having conversation, one of the things they always tell me, oh, Isaac, you're a very energetic person. But that energy has a source, and the source is usually a thriving environment, an atmosphere that garners positivity and optimism for the future. And if that is lost, the urge for people to wake up and to believe in the economy, to contribute in its success is lost. And that means that perhaps people come to work and not wanting to put their best forward because what really is there for them. And so that sense of hopelessness is really the zeitgeist of the moment, and it's quite sad.
You think our leaders know this? Are they seeing this? Are they seeing it from where you
I ask myself all the time. And I think that a little bit of sympathy, a little show of empathy of the woes of the ordinary person would at least, right, validate the feelings of people so that they feel like they are not in this alone. But it seems to me, and this is why I cannot tell whether they genuinely feel it or not, but it seems to me the political elite have taken a stance where it seems they're oblivious to the reality of the ordinary people. You know, they take stands where it seems like, oh, we're trying our best. It could have been worse. I mean, how worse could it be, right? So I think, I think that taking the posture of empathy and acknowledgement of like how egregious the state of our economy has become, and saying that we know the state of the economy is bad, and we are trying to put relief systems, and or we are failing, or it's not working, right? And we need help. I think that coming out and being honest is better than what it seems like gaslighting people to the realities that they are facing every day. I think that is quite immoral.
I mean, I'm looking at I like the, okay, this is Xinhua. The Xinhua News Bureau brought a report recently, then they were quoting the Statistical Service that inflation climbed. Sometimes they said inflation has dipped. My good friend Alassane Bello just said that for him, all political, all economic figures that look good on paper, but it's not bread and butter. He doesn't understand. He doesn't care, right? It looks like on paper, IMF this and IMF that. Does the average youth on the street understand this? If you deal with them, do they get what this IMF thing is? Do they believe we're in an election year? If the state of hopelessness is that terrible, what is happening to this country then? Is it going to have any effect on the elections? Are people going to say, you know what, we won't go vote? Where are we going vis-a-vis this economic challenges and the fact that we are in an election year? Okay,
so I mean, your question basically is that when the politician talks about IMF and what's coming in, is the average youth or able to relate or even accept the convincing that the politician is trying to put across? You see, if I take 2020, so 2020, where somebody was paying rent $500 and the cedi equivalent was 2,500 cedis. That same 500 4 years down the road is 8,000 cedis. Your salary hasn't necessarily changed. Your earning power hasn't necessarily increased or changed. Things have become more expensive. So even if you were being paid 2,000 then, and you're being paid 5,000 now, literally your lifestyle hasn't changed. Nothing. You haven't become better in terms of what's in your pocket. So if the politician tells you that, oh, there's money coming in, the average person walking on the street is asking, the money in my pocket keeps going down. So really, what is this injection of $30 million? What impact is it going to have here? I think typically we just see, and I guess we're talking or speaking reality here. You see the life of the public office holder becoming better, That's why I think whether you ask the question whether the politician feels what we feel, I don't think they are oblivious to the hardships on the ground. It's just something which is innate. The Ghanaian politician or the African politician cannot even resign a position when they find themselves in a place where they have to tell themselves or the nation, I was wrong and I'm leaving this role. The Ghanaian or the African politician would justify whatever they have done, even in the face of pure evidence. And that's translated into their psyche, that when the Ghanaian says times are hard, the usual answer you get from the politician is that we're doing better
than the previous
administration. All right. So I think that the ordinary person really isn't banking their hopes on what the politician is saying, because they know politicians are all the same, whether it's blue or red. For them, it probably is white every time. So the person walking on the street really is fed up. All right. What the average youth, and I think you talked about the mass exodus of people. Everybody is now taking their fate into their hands.
Yeah.
Because you cannot depend on a politician. So just to answer your question, I feel that all these numbers and statistics and promises, we hear them, but we make nothing out of them.
Over the years in this very country, there's been lots of youth employment schemes and programs, So is that not
all political?
I think, if I could...
Is that not the politicians trying to do something about the situation?
I think...
Wait, when you said all political?
I think that really the concept of government incentivized employment, right, as a solution to unemployment is just a ridiculous concept. It's just ridiculous. First of all, you see, the agency of government is not to create necessarily jobs itself. It's to enable the creation of jobs. At any point where we see government, and this is historical, at any point where we see government try to intervene directly in job creation by creating jobs,
they fail.
They fail. They shouldn't attempt to do that. I think it's just ridiculous. Because what is job creation in Ghana? Some, again, I mean, we love this as Ghanaians. Some interesting name, one this, one that, one scheme this.
I could give you a number of them. Youth Employment Agency, Maslock, NAPCO, Nation Builders Corps. It goes on and on.
These concepts are all ridiculous. They are all ridiculous in that I think that there are a couple of things, right? If you look at it from the outpour of educational talent into the job market, right? There's a phase where they have to get into formal education, transitionary period where they have to kind of learn the scope between education and real work, and then obviously climb up into their ladder, right? The National Service Scheme is sort of being able to
sit in between the two,
yes,
the bridge.
In between, and I think that the state of that is poor as it stands right now. And there are even very good arguments for why I think that probably that program to be shut down. But it has its benefits. And in that scope, right, where really does government sit? Is government trying to be the guy in the middle, or is government trying to actually upskill people? Because I do not see the upskilling of where government actually comes into play, where they upskill tremendously a certain demographic of young people so that their earning power increases. All these schemes are schemes that are giving people less than minimum wage at the edge of minimum wage salaries. That is not going to change the lives of people at all.
Exactly, yeah.
We need really critical programs that tips the edge of people's skill set so that they become valuable in the job market. There is none of these programs, none, and I mean zero, that really tips the edges of people's skill set to the point that they are useful beyond the programs that they are in itself. Who went into Maslog and said, after your wonderful Maslog performance, we see you and everything, KPMG wants to hire you?
I mean, you talk about Maslog. Who was the greatest beneficiary of Maslog? Probably was the CEO and the deputies, based on...
She's out of town.
Well, exactly my point. So, you know, it just goes to buttress the point that some of these programs really... And you see, once we also politicize them, unfortunately, and what I'm going to say is subjective, all right? But governments come, they create some of these programs to benefit their followers, and not necessarily. You might have one or two people.
The critical mass of Ghanaian youth.
Exactly.
In today's New Finder, our very own New Finder, page 9 story, first batch of Kayaye graduate from NEIP skills training program, and Kofi is here giving some awards and stuff. Is that not?
What does that translate into, please?
I mean, I could easily tell you what it translates into. The girls, mostly from the 5 regions of the north, underwent a month-long training program in various skills development courses.
A month?
Yes, a month.
What skill set in the world?
About 170 of the girls were trained in soap and detergent making, 172 trained in baking, 47 were trained in bead and jewelry making, 17 learned event decoration, 148 received training in makeup artistry, and 40 learned how to do pedicures and manicures.
There's no program. There's none of those programs will take you 1 month to expertise. None of them. Unless, let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, we create jobs, so we know, right? We know how much it takes for someone who is very trained to come into a new role in a new company and take 3 months to acquiesce into the new environment. So you don't go from 0 skill sets in 30 days. And let's be honest, right? Even if it's a full month program and we are fully engaging people in the working days, that is at most 20 days. So you learn this skill set, then what happens afterwards? Are they giving capital? Are they being linked to companies? What is the distribution mechanism? Are they, because there's a difference between learning the skill set if you want them to become entrepreneurs and being able to sell, right? So
the chief executive officer of the NEIP, Ofosu Nkansa, reminded the girls that the graduation ceremony is just the beginning of the entrepreneurship journey. He told them, with the skills you've acquired, you have the power to shape your destiny and inspire others with your stories of resilience. He promised the graduating Kayaye that they would receive the balance of the 1,000 Ghana cedis they had been promised at the commencement of their training.
So let's take this into the practicality, right? I think all of these, and this is no sham at any particular government, anything. I don't want to sound today overly inflated. Okay. But let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the unit economics of these engagements, which is that, first of all, what business can you start with the balance of what 1,000 cedis, whatever that means, in Ghana as it stands right now, right? What are you going to start with? Who are you going to sell with? What is the market available for that thing to be bought? That's how we start businesses, right? We do all of these pros and cons.
She's not a pedicurist and manicurist.
There's nobody who can learn pedicures and do it very well to the point where somebody wants to pay them value in 1 month.
But you see,
nobody. I mean, let's stop that.
What is he saying?
My sister would learn it on YouTube because I have 5 sisters, and I can tell you that you will not learn YouTube videos for 1 month consistently for 20 days, which I don't think they have. And do you know how much pedicure sets cost? Ask Worship that how much does he buy for his girlfriend?
Worship, how much is a pedicure?
So you don't start a pedicure makeup business with the excess of. Do you know how much? So I was having 2 weeks ago, someone introduced me to a concept which I was not even aware of. That if you want to go and do your makeup right now, right, the service is such that for the very good ones, you book, and the booking is not part of the payment. The booking is just payment for a slot. You book usually between the ranges of 50 to 200 cedis, depending on the quality of the service, before you go, and each of them, which will averagely take you 2 hours, right, is about 150 cedis. And the makeup brush that you find, the cheapest one of them, is around 200 cedis. before obviously the makeup elements.
How do you know these things?
Because I have sisters.
He has a number of girlfriends.
So I've just shown you how impractical it is to start a business like that.
So you think this is what?
It's a scam. You see,
I think it's a numbers game to say we have created X number.
no, but you see, that's even pathetic because I'm reading. Well, I haven't read, but
Yeah,
from
he's
what
read, yeah.
Jerry read, they're yet to give them 1,000 cities.
Yeah, they promised them there's a balance that.
So these are 170 trainees.
Yeah.
By 1,000, that's 170,000 cities. Okay. The government says, or the agency says, we don't have the 170,000 to give to you now. Now, you see where the problem is.
They're actually 600.
600. So that's how much?
Yeah.
That's 600,000. Okay, that's peanuts actually. And that's what I'm talking about, that there is a lack of commitment and honesty when it comes to some of these programs that are rolled out or churned out by governments. And not to attack anybody, but the kind of corruption we see and hear of and about, if you can't give these people that you claim, whose lives you want to better or change, and you can't even give them that 1,000 cities when they are graduating, that you're walking out of here, we're giving you this. It's nothing really from what he's talked about.
Yeah.
But you can't even commit to say that, listen, we made you a promise and we're fulfilling it on the day of your graduation.
You'll get it next week.
I'm sorry about that. But it tells me, because you see, in some other country where things are done well, there's planning, there's budgeting, all of that, it's done like that.
I mean, I
All
think
right?
that in these cases, one of the things they would use as an excuse is that, oh, they have to, go through.
That's what I'm talking about. There's planning.
Exactly.
There's planning. So you know you're graduating on the 6th. You know it will take you 3 weeks. All right? I mean, we're a joke as a country. Let's just, digress a bit. We have a donor agency that has brought us drugs. And for a year, the drugs are sitting at the port not cleared. All right, that tells you the problem we have as a nation. We're not committed to really helping the ordinary Ghanaian, and I'm sorry to say that.
Worship Joshua Frimpong, co-founder and managing director of Adani Chemists Limited, is joined us. Worship, is the sense of, one, is there a sense of hopelessness? Two, is the sense of hopelessness palpable like it is being made to look like in this very country?
Good morning and thank you for having me. I've seen that my brothers have severed the government already, so I'll be subtle in my submission. So. But in responding to that, I'd just like to reference Darren's analysis in his book, Why Nations Fail. He highlights some conditions that exhibit the hopelessness that we're talking about. Now, you'd realize that in his analysis, he juxtaposes the arguments by academics and pundits as against the ordinary Egyptians who protested at the Tahrir Square, to say that while the ordinary Egyptians were arguing that their country is what it is because the narrow elites have monopolized the resources and had feathered their nest to create a system that benefits only them, the academics were rather paying attention to a number of things: geographical issues, climatic factors, a number of things that were, sorry to say, bookish, but realistically on the ground were not a reflection of what the people were going through daily. And the first thing that indicates that there's hopelessness in the country is when the people the ruling class have lost touch with reality on the ground. For me, that is it. Because if you cannot speak to the issues that the ordinary people that put you in power are talking about, then it means that whatever analysis you're having at the top differs from whatever is going on the ground. And truly, the big question we can ask, normally the indicator is, what is the quality of life? What really is the quality of life? Living in Ghana, daily expenses, how much do you earn? What are the opportunities that are available for you as a person here? And normally what we talk about living, affordable housing and all of that. People say, oh, leave Accra and go to some other places. They are less expensive. Somebody said on Twitter when people were complaining about tomatoes that, oh, go to Mankasim or something like that. It's less expensive. Go and buy bulk and come to Accra. You know, these things are funny because how many people can live outside Accra? And two, if all the resources were properly distributed outside of Accra, we would not be fighting in Accra. And so the reality on the ground is not exaggerated. I don't want us to even start a conversation thinking that some people are projecting what really is not the reality. The reality is that transport fares have increased. Daily expenses are no joke. I don't know how much people earn a day, but if I'm supposed to use myself for somebody who is...
the top 1%.
No, I mean, well, let me not use... let me conveniently
You can use me. I'm from the streets.
You see,
I'm
everybody
here
is...
representing...
But if we're using
Yeah.
how much the top 1% spend a day, from morning, afternoon, evening, right? And you are doing a 111, we're not doing a 101. It means that arguably a day, you should not be spending less than 500 cedis in this country. I'm not joking.
In a month?
In the morning. No, I'm talking about the day. I'm not being...
Okay,
I'm not being
that's
wild.
even pushing it up a bit because really, you can buy cocoa.
No, so if you buy cocoa, if you buy... And I'm using a top 1%.
Okay. Oh, okay.
They would want to,
All right.
you know,
Something
choose a
bougie.
healthy,
All right.
a healthy living. So it means that if you are using the ordinary people, they will probably be spending, let's say, 100 cedis a day or
Less than.
less than that.
But even that less than is not available.
That's the point.
That's the reality.
So that less than, I think there's a friend on Jerome who's been doing some research on daily expenses in Ghana. I've forgotten the data. But truly, I mean, how much do people earn in a month? For which reason they could be able to spend, let's say, even 50 cedis a day?
So justifiable.
How much do people earn? And the actual...
Definitely government's programs that you have mentioned do not incentivize
They pay
50 cedis
700.
expenditure.
They pay 700 cedis for Maslock and YE. They pay 700.
But what is this? What's the standard of the conversation today? I want to know. Are we all being sarcastic so that I'll join the
No,
We're being realistic.
I'm tuning in well, and I love it. I wanted to be subtle, but
We're being realistic. The thing is that it's all starts from this issue of hopelessness, and we're also saying that people are leaving. They're leaving this town. Are these things real, or is this just a few people on social media making it look like the whole Ghana is about to bend? Is the sky falling?
Is
the sky really falling?
It's not even those who are down there who are. It's not just them who are leaving.
The middle class.
I have friends in the banks who are, risk managers, and they've gotten jobs in Canada, and they left with a family. I know of a lady whose father has a private school that you can, it's like Tema International School, that kind of. And the father says, come, I'll pay you $2,000. She says, nah, I'm going. She left. All right. So it's not even just an issue of those who are not earning too much. All right. And, he talked about the politician losing touch. I don't think so.
They know what is happening.
I think they just don't care. See, when you lose touch with something, I don't know what the real meaning of that is, but to live in Ghana and say that you don't know that people are migrating or leaving the country. I mean, they're in power, so they actually have
the data.
The data. Okay. They are coming up or out with the taxes, the levies, and all these things. And they know how much they pay the people who work for them. All right. So I don't think they've lost touch. It's just that they don't care about it.
They don't care. They don't care. So says
the streets person.
So says someone from the street. Kofi says is from the street. Whether he is, we really doubt that. But yes, he said so. I would, listening to you, what scares me is this. I was in the banking industry for years. Went into private consulting. My colleagues in the industry rose. And then a few months ago, one who had risen to the level of a regional manager tells me, Charlie, I did go UK, go drop wifey and come back, you know, because the town be somewhere. And I was like, okay, that's fine. We'll come. You know, he comes back. Charlie, I did go. I'm like, you go. This is why I did join. I'm not coming back. What? He said, so I come sort everything out. He's gone. Regional manager. So hearing you say that for me is the clearest indication that regional manager, he should be comfortable. But he's left. So what about a guy who is way below, down the ladder? That gives me that insight that probably we're joking with this. What are repercussions? What would happen? If things get worse, what would happen?
I think you, in the beginning, you asked a question that I don't think we were able to respond to. That what is the implications immediately towards this election? And I anticipate that there's going to be perhaps one of our worst performance in electoral attendance. You know,
turnout.
Yeah, turnout. Yeah.
Voter turnout.
I think there's going to be a massive...
There's that much apathy?
I think there's going to be a massive depreciation in voter turnout because I think apathy is not supposed to be a projection. Apathy is our reality already. It's just going to translate politically in people's actions on that day. I think that voter turnout is going to be very low, first of all. I think that we are going to continue to see a massive exodus of people from down route to the top. I think that there's going to be, unfortunately, a huge increase in crime and corruption because in the state of, which is really a state of national urgency that we're in right now.
Are we not going to be sounding like alarmists?
No. I think that, and again, these are projections I'm making, so I'm not saying this is what is going to happen right now. I'm saying that if things continue to be this way, right, which is trending towards the worst continuously, then we are going into a state where we have to really, really be careful, right? It was just last 2 weeks, that the dollar made a dip, right? This week, what happened? 21%, right? So, if you're a business person, right? I don't think people understand, and so let me break it down. When we say that a currency has increased 21% in 2 weeks, right, against a dominant currency with which people do global trade with. What it means is that if you were supposed to do something and you were buying it at X and you were going to sell it at Y, and that margin was 21%, at that point in 2 weeks, by no fault of yours, and this is not a wide timeline, 2 weeks, which is usually, if you are a transporter, the time with which your product is within shore. So if that is happening, right, if that person comes, what is going to happen? Then the implication immediately is that the person shoots out the price. And we all collectively feel it. You know, one of my favorite things to eat in the morning was Quaker Oats. Do you know how much Quaker Oats cost in 2020?
The 1%.
Last year, do you know how much it cost? Today. Last year, Quaker Oats 20 cedis. Today, it costs 50 cedis. A tin of Quaker Oats costs 50 cedis. Do you know how much Quaker Oats cost when I was in London last year? It cost less than £3.
Well, you see,
and that was for the bigger box of Quaker Oats, not the tin.
When you're bringing the UK-US analysis, things are tough there too. Prices have gone up.
Definitely.
But there is also a commensurate adjustment of your income. Right?
And other government relief mechanisms.
Exactly. So really, things are going up.
Everywhere.
Admittedly. But in terms of the interventions to, like we say in Ghana, to cushion, ourselves, I think that is where that's where the problem is. In terms of its impact, people would continue leaving, but I also feel that, and I don't know whether we're getting into the hope side of this conversation. I'm sure we will very soon.
Yeah.
But when times get tough, I think that's when my creative juices also really increase.
Yeah.
Because you have a certain lifestyle that you want to maintain, all right? And typically I tell people that when you're earning more, it doesn't mean you should
Spend more.
Spend more,
Definitely.
all right? But you would want to have a solid reserve of funds, you know. So the flip side of this whole thing is that there are huge opportunities, and I'm sure we'll.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll. It's
But
yes,
can
please.
I touch on the bit on the election acts for the implication on elections? I think Ghana definitely would be one of the countries where normally the voter turnout and the election results may not necessarily be a reflection of the people's desire for change. I think that once in our history, when we voted for the president in 2016, we could clearly see that it indicated, you know, the swing of change and all of that. But even that, if you want to do a proper analysis, you'd realize that if you're examining Ghana's electoral system, the swift to the NDC was a basic imbalance. Because ordinarily, if we're looking at the duopoly, the party that usually would win an election in this country is NPP. That is, means if you amass a number of people from Ashanti region, all they have to do is just to get a little number of people from the other outskirts, and then you're good to go.
You win.
Right? So, the voter turnout, which I would differ in this year's election, may necessarily not be a reflection of anything that the people are concerned with. The political parties will still have the requisite resources to amass a number of people to come. The people they amass to come obviously will not be the educated like us, because we'll be able to tell the difference sometimes. But the actual people who live way beyond and deeper, those places where they do the actual campaigns there, where they will take people, give them, you know, voting.
But the swing states always play a crucial role. So you can deceive somebody who is living in the very rural area. But you need Accra, you need Cape Coast to win an election, all right? Yes, Volta is definitely for the NDC, Ashanti, even Eastern for, but you need Accra, you need Central Region. Now, if these people say, we've been taken for a ride for too long, we're not coming out to vote. So I actually think that we could experience low voter turnout.
Especially in those regions you've mentioned, yes.
Yes, because even the political parties don't seem to have a message. That's how weak the system has become, all right? Because what are you coming to tell the youth that would really change their minds? And sorry for getting
When we have conversations like this, people have always accused us of saying, listen, you're sitting in Accra and talking big grammar. The youth in the village somewhere who would also vote, he doesn't want quick out. He's fine with what he eats. He's all right. Why you are in Accra complaining because you want quick out? He doesn't care. Are those people also suffering like we are?
What data do we have for rural-urban migration? Tell me.
Okay.
Why are we building?
Why are they coming?
Why are they
if
coming?
things are that good there, why are they coming?
Why are we building Kayaye hostels
Hostel and school and all.
training? Because I've heard people say, look, why don't you take them? Let's encourage them to go back.
Reverse migration.
But it's not happening. So that should tell you.
So
this not a be like that.
Everywhere in the world, right, there's a monopoly of economic activity in certain jurisdictions, right? And that is where people always tend to. When people say they are living out of the country, it is not for any fanfare. It's not because Dubai is so beautiful they want to go and chill there. No. It's because people always move to where economic activity is most predominant, because they are looking to get more money, increase their earning power. And that is the state of why Accra, Kumasi would always see more people coming, because that's where a bunch of our economic activity is saturated.
Exactly. I honestly agree with the two of you, only that I also have a dissenting opinion on the flip side. that, beyond the truth that economic activities are concentrated within these two areas, there's also a dream that has been sold generally to young people, for which reason a number of them want to migrate. Because comfort is relative, and that's why the key indicators of quality of life in a country are a number of things: affordable housing, affordable living, daily expense, and all of that. I farm in Asante Achimagogo, right? Every time I go there, there's a fresh breath of air that I get.
Because you're living the polluted city too. but they have been there. So
exactly.
You
want to come to Accra of realities that makes you appreciate that. Moving away from just the air, when I said the air,
no, I
wasn't even talking about that. I just meant that heave of relief.
A complete break from the hustle and bustle of Accra.
And perhaps that is because within here, probably are earning a little more than they are earning. So when I go there, I'm able to tell the difference that this one would cost higher in Accra than it is here. But usually for the people there, the major thing that we struggle with here is not what they struggle with there. We are struggling to find something to eat, usually when we wake up. But they, because of planting a number of things they are doing there, when they wake up, it's not really about food. Because they plant, they eat the same thing. It is actually about money that would keep giving them that basic condition. Like farmers, how much do they earn if they are selling? Are they able to even produce? These are the key things that worry them.
Okay.
Because the vendors leave Accra, they go pick the stuff there, right? And I'll come back and talk about why we are our own problems anyway. But the vendors leave Accra, a box of tomatoes there probably is like 600, because I plant tomatoes, so it's like 600. That's when it's brought to Accra, it's 1,200. If we're calculating the margin of profit, that should be about 5x, or so, in
100%
terms.
actually.
You understand that? So these people eventually get to hear that, boxes are sold 1,200 in Accra. Okay, we also have to try and increase it, because they are the ones who bear the cost of production, every single thing. And normally when we're looking at the cost of production, we're looking at the basic one, getting fertilizer, this and good. We're not looking at how much they are losing internally in terms of them as a person, the implicit cost and all of that. You get the whole point. So I just think that the messages that are sold across is different in terms of engagement. And that is why it's easier for them to be able to penetrate. Because when you come here and then you give me 200 cities, go and vote for me, I'll look at you weirdly, because 200 cities is not, because what I want to eat and the way I'm doing my calculation, 200 cities will not sustain me. But if you go there and give them 200 cities, it's not that they're using to buy food. So the understanding is different. Like, okay, I have something that is on me, I can use to check.
And the reality is that one vote, and it's the same everywhere. 200 cities has power everywhere, I guess.
I'm just, drawing the analysis of voter buying,
right. But they're also becoming
that are so
a bit sophisticated, I think. We've gone through a number of elections, and I think they're becoming a bit aware and enlightened in a way. But your point is valid. There's actually a reel I saw on Instagram where they asked somebody who lives that if you get the opportunity to travel to any other country, where would you want to go? And the person says, I'd want to go to Weja or Kaswa. Right.
That's how big the person's dream is.
Exactly. Right.
Wow.
I'm just trying to give you a sense.
Yeah. I get it.
Those of us, to them, we might think being there is good enough for them, but he just wants to move to.
Comes.
Not even East Legon.
Winter.
It's 9:09 and there's a Z round table. Some want to go to Weja and Kaswa. Some also want to go to
Canada,
Holland, and get a Netherlands passport, which is better than a PhD. That discussion, we'll come to it, right? But I want to know, from your experiences, what are your personal challenges of being a youth within this space? What are your personal challenges so that someone listening to you say, okay, because he's hearing the Quaker Oats guy and thinking, he hasn't got a problem. if all he has a problem with is the price of Quaker Oats, the guy's fine. What are the middle to upper class people within this space also going through? Just so that people would understand that this thing cuts across from the guy from the, you know, down there all the way to the top. What are the challenges? Question.
I get tired of talking about the problems that we go through because it appears that we have rather found comfort discussing problems, and the people who have the solutions to them, are rather doing something else. But let me state emphatically so that those who think that the Quaker Oats don't have a problem will have a change of narrative, that whatever they are going through generally as a people is no different from what any of us are going through. We may have varying interests and varying areas of expertise for which reason we find ourselves in different sectors. But it generally does not mean that we're too different in any ways. Mm-hmm. I often want to start with farming all the time because essentially it's what keeps us as a country together. If we don't have anything to eat, we're doomed. And now, I'm planting tomatoes this season. And I have not even, normally you do the nursery bed before you do the transplanting. Mm-hmm. I have not even transplanted yet. I have spent close to 10,000 cedis already. The clearing of the land, the plowing, normally when those who weed have whatever they'll charge. Mm-hmm. When you're done, those who go pick, I know how to call it in tree, but they almost say a C, Those who, when they do just an acre, they take 600 cedis. The picking of whatever has been left off. Yeah. When they finish, the women who go to actually pack it and burn it, half theirs they take. Then those who go to plow, do the Nkofi.
Yeah, the mounts.
Have what they take. Before those who do the nursery bed, they've taken theirs already. Those who go and do the transplanting. I'm listing processes where the tomato itself has not been planted yet. As a farmer, and I'm somebody who has learned a few things, who is educated a bit, compared to somebody who is not, and probably somebody that doesn't earn as much as maybe I may be earning. But I've spent close to 10,000 cedis already. The calculation of fertilizer alone is almost 6,000 cedis. So before the tomatoes would come out, generally for all of us to want to feed on, then the cost of production is high. And normally people think it's exaggerated. People don't know that inflation happens because of subsequent projections. And that if something is 600 cedis today, the only reason why somebody wants to sell 1,200 is because the inflation is happening consistently. It's not like it stops today and it moves. Like the example you gave about 2 weeks, 21%. And so people also want to fill that vacuum. Whatever happens, I'm prepared for it. I should be able to keep planting because that's the job I also do. You understand that? So the struggles as a farmer, which is just one of the things I do, is prevalent. It's not something that I can even hide. Now, if I go through this consistently, would I even have the edge to think that I should go into agriculture again? And for a country that has enough viable lands, the other time I was doing the analysis on Twitter that somebody says we have so many lands, why don't we plant? Availability of lands has nothing to do with anything agriculture. A lot more has to do with how much we can produce, one, and then two, how to preserve the ones we produce that we don't need at the time that we're eating it to bring it back at the time that we need it. And so these are the whole things that are involved in that particular space. I don't think I would find agriculture anything, gratifying to want to go into. Away from that, health. Recently on social media, there's been a whole, noise about, hey, the University of Ghana Medical Center, solid place, government has done well, everybody. People look at infrastructure and they are amazed, and they are not concerned with how much it would cost somebody to access that infrastructure. I don't know how we miss that all the time. My sister was sick. She was admitted at UGMC. Before 3 days, we had spent 4,000 cedis. The first time she was admitted there, they came to do the test and everything. you pay. They say, oh, we don't think her condition is one that we should allow other people to be by her side. Let's take her to a separate room. A separate room, which is very nice, the whole place is sweet and all of that. You probably think it's just like some 200 cedis to save your sister. So imagine if somebody's seriously sick, the person has to access experts who will be present at the medical center, but the person doesn't have. And so infrastructure must also be commensurate with affordability. If the thing is there and it's accessible, to what rate is it accessible? And that's why I keep saying that the people who are outskirt here that are struggling with healthcare and all the other things are no different from those of us here, because all the other hospitals you go are equally as expensive as anything else. And if truly you are chasing quality healthcare, you'd want to go to the ones that have very good infrastructure and experts. Can you access those ones? Can you pay? And that is a true reflection of what we're living in as a country. That even if you get sick, these are the basic indicators. So to be able to buy food, to be able to buy drugs when you are sick, to be able to access good health care. Would you be able to access it as an individual? I know my friends will talk about many of them. But beyond these things, as an entrepreneur, last time we had a conversation, we talked about it and talked about it. I was hoping that when Isaac and I left here, something would have changed in the system for us to come back and say that, oh, things have changed. And the whole thing about the KIA is a basic reflection of the same points that we made. That as a country, we are not concerned with ensuring that aid creates change. We are concerned with aid creating a narrative. That change is being created, but the change itself is not created.
I think they're padding the figures.
No, it's everything about the figures.
It's narrative framing.
That's the whole thing, because, for example,
it will make the finder.
They use that project. The government comes out. We've supported 1,000 businesses with certain amount of money. You realize that the amount of money that have been given to these businesses are so meager that they cannot do anything. It is as though the people who are given the grant are not abreast with the processes of productions and administrative runnings of companies, because if you give somebody who is running, let's say pharmaceuticals, 50,000 cedis, we've given you started pharmaceutical. What are they starting with?
It's not as if. It is that we've received enough money to fund what you call the process. But there's somebody seated somewhere who says, out of this 100%, we of the political elite must have 70% and then 30% shared across. So it's not as if they don't understand.
So it means they are aware. I'm trying to be, a little bit
more magnanimous.
Yeah, with my words. I don't know what happened when I leave here. As far as anything else is concerned, in recent times we've found that free speech is very expensive. So I'm just trying to.
It is
very expensive, and
in this town.
Well, I wouldn't want to go to the pitch you want to put me in. But really,
he speaks his mind always. He's still walking around.
I mean, you see, sometimes it depends on the kind of business that you run. Melo controls tech. How well can you shut Melo? Yeah. Farmer. The increase fertilizer, I'm dead. So
you be a lot more cautious.
No, but it's not as true that I'm scared to. I mean, I speak truth to power.
Yeah, of course.
The reality of what we're saying is that politicization of aid for businesses in this country has come to stay. And it's not starting now. It started many years ago. Because normally when the donors give you money, they also want to be impressed one way or the other. So sometimes they would want to tweak the whole situation to meet the expectations of donors. But you are receiving the aid. If truly your concern is to build a Ghana beyond aid, where you don't have to necessarily go back all the time to receive aid.
Is that tagline still working? I thought we ditched it.
Well, I think that tagline has been working since Nkrumah. Building an Africa beyond aid, an Africa that is economically independent and, on all of that. And
he rejected an IMF bailout, so he could have said that. Everybody else took it.
But he Nkrumah took a number of loans to build a number of the industries and all of. I don't think aid generally is a bad problem.
Of course.
But if it's not used effectively, it becomes a problem you are evading. That's the point. And I want to toe his line that truly they are aware, because the job of successive government is to have examined the errors of previous government. And so this morning I was speaking to a friend and I said that, why is it that all the time when we were concerned with political stability, while just looking at a successful change of power, and we are not concerned about governance? Because there's a marriage between politics and governance all the time. So if somebody you've changed power successfully and the problems still linger, then we're not stable. We're not stable at all. So we should not be separating the two, politics and then governance, and making it look like, oh, the political side. Then we try to create a certain political nation to make it look like we're interested in the games. And because it didn't cause any chaos and people didn't lose many lives, it means we are okay to go. The problems can still stay, and then we're not worried about it. It's something else for me.
It's true. I think
Isaac,
I like that.
what are your personal experiences that makes you feel this country is really going through a lot?
I like the closing framing, right? We are in some virtual Tetris. People are playing games with us. You see, like Worship is saying, we're trying to build a tech company, a tech product. We're beta testing. The realities are different from what the ordinary person would feel, even though I can give you a couple of FMCG metrics, which are some of the companies that we are targeting, which is a sub-regional problem. You know, there's a huge exodus of companies from Nigeria, equally in Ghana, right? See companies shutting down. And so companies are less interested in efficiency systems and automation and stuff like that we'll be building. But away from that, let me practicalize it. So in business, there's a saying that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is, what is cash flow? Cash flow is reality, right? I think that if you take that analogy and you put it into the personal lives of people, what really stabilizes someone, right, is cash flow, right? And cash flow would mirror someone's salary, right? And if they are saying, right, being able to have a cash reserve from which they can always continually plow from, right? And obviously, it should be a recurring cash reserve that is either increasing or stabilizing to some extent, right? And so you see that for businesses, means that if a business has a healthy cash flow, that means that they're able to always invest easily in expenditure, being able to be agile and fast-moving and innovative in responding to market conditions. At this point, we see that the thing that will hurt cash flow a lot for businesses is that there is unpredictability of the cost of doing business, right? I don't want to go into the maths, but if your cost of goods sold for your business is so unpredictable that week over week, right, we are seeing 10 to 20% increases, then your cash flows are going to suffer. Because what will happen for you to stabilize your cash flow is to either increase, and then your consumers say, hey, how are we supposed to buy this? Or you have to make a loss. And if I bring that to the lives of individual people, it translates into that people are living on the edge of their seats. The reason why I think that we are in such a dire situation and we see people wanting to leave is that people know that they are one drug away, they are one emergency away, they are one accident away, right? From them literally dying. And I mean dying in both hypothetical terms, right? And in the reality of their living.
Yeah.
Which is that if they miss a drug, right? Which is that if they,
if they miss a month of work.
If they miss a month of work, right? If their kid goes to school and gets a bad infection, right? If they supposedly, Cocoa Seller was going to sell, and that morning, for some reason, the car got an accident and the cocoa poured. You know,
that's how close people are to the edge.
Yeah, most of us are close to the edge, right? Because the cash flow is not cash flow, it's not flowing. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
So at that point, it is really bad that the only thing you can hope for is that you don't get sick is that there is no emergency that happens to you. And the unpredictability of life is that these things that are unpredictable, they are the daily recurrences of life. And so you just have to leave your fate to luck. That if you don't get sick and you don't have 4,000 cedis, which is a lot of money to go to UGMC, you get a hospital with no beds. You are not able to afford the drugs, and that means that you are probably going to die. Let me tell you something, right? Again, let's move away from my tech and all the complications, because that can be a little hard for people to understand. My sister, I capitalized my sister for her national service to start a bread business, right? Because we're very entrepreneurial people, so for national service, almost the first class students, we didn't want to do all of these things because we know, right? We know national service people didn't do anything, almost businesses. And so what we did, and so let me give a couple of the numbers, right? For a small bread operation that right now she does employing one other person, right? The cost of just setting that up was about 10,000 cedis. Also training, and then this is my sister. My mom was a buffalo seller for most of his life, so we have known how to use. Even me sitting here, I can't.
Pastries comes naturally.
It comes naturally to us. So she could do bread, but against the rhetoric of some 20-day program, let me tell you, my sister, who has been doing that for a very long time, to start that business went for a 3-month training, and she had been doing pastries for a long time. It was 3 months that it took her. Do you know how much it cost? It cost 3,000 cedis for that proper training to happen. Before the setup came, before the 10,000 cedis setup of let's buy the oven, the mid-size oven, which costs 4,000 cedis. Let's buy sugar. Let's buy this. Let's buy that. And I can tell you that the prices of those goods is you cannot buy sugar in this country and receive the same price every 3 days. Every 3 days, the price either goes up or down, and it's mostly up. So every 3 days, what that means is that should my sister at anything, and there are people who don't know.
So what happens to the bread?
Exactly, that's what I'm
Does it
trying
become
to.
smaller?
The bread obviously becomes smaller because you cannot increase the price of for people. Because what are you going to sell the bread at? If it is a tea bread that people are buying for 5 cedis, are you going to then tomorrow say 7 cedis? People are going to say tea bread say no, 5 cedis. And they don't understand that every 3 days, the cost increases, which affects the entire chain of production, which makes the cash flow reduce in the company. So that is the daily reality. That it means that every day, to keep the price that you are used to, because you would feel it is ridiculous that the price of bread that was 5 cedis yesterday should cost 6 cedis today, that the bread has to keep decreasing. The bread is not decreasing because of anything. The bread is decreasing because every 2-3 days, sugar increases, flour increases, margarine increases, milk increases. And that is the reality of people. If you combine that with what I've just told you about people living on the edge of their seats, one drug away, one accident away, that is the reality of the daily Ghanaian doing a normal business.
Which never appears on the finder.
And which we cannot solve with ridiculous problems of, I am going to give you 1,000 cedis. I mean, let's be serious.
Kofi, moving on from Isaac.
Okay, I mean
Personal challenges.
Okay, so I think beginning of this year, I decided I was going to track my spending daily. So even if I buy 10 cedis credits, I write it down. Just so that I would know what to eliminate, what to,
elimination tactics.
Exactly.
And that's a reflection of how bad was it. Because
if you begin to calculate, it is said that it is only the poor man who really knows the number of the note in his wallet.
Exactly.
He knows the serial number. Because I mean, if you have a bundle, which calculate?
You don't care.
If you have one, if you look at then you memorize the serial number.
No. Recently, I got some $1,000. I think every morning I count it. I'm just, what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
I pick the pouch.
It feels good in your hands.
1,000. Okay, now I put it back. But back to what we're saying. So I realized that, okay, my ECG, every other day, like every 2 or 3 days, I'll buy 200. I know there are people who buy like 2,000, so it lasts, but yeah, I do tots, because when you're on the street, you have to.
Yeah, you buy it tots.
So I was like, this thing, every other day, every 3 days, 200. So I realized, okay, it's the AC. So I said, okay. Then I went to the shop and bought a big Benetton fan. All right, this is January, February. So from January, February till now, I don't switch on the AC at home because I live alone. All right. Now that same 200 when I buy now lasts me probably 5-6 weeks. So instead of buying 200, that would last me 3 days. That 200 is lasting me 4-5 weeks. So that's my reality. I've had to change my lifestyle.
Wow.
In my car, I don't switch on the AC. All right. I know there are people who say when you switch on the AC, it actually manages the fuel. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
So I'm driving.
I don't know what kind of calculation that is.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
driving in the heat. It's fine. I just have to. I calculate when I want to move out and all of that. Okay. In terms of food, you know, I would typically go sit out. I'm not like a very social person, but there's one person, a guy that I don't drink, but I love pork. I love meat. So we'll go and sit somewhere on the boundary road. You know, you buy a kilo of pork, at the time was 120. It moved to 180, currently about 250. So I was like, okay, you know what?
That's you see that, right? That's a doubling of the price.
So I'm like, we can't keep doing this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so we find another pork joint that sells a steak for 10 cedis. And okay, we can eat 4, and that's 40 cedis, and we're good. Because that kilo was a lot, but it's, you know, you're just sitting and chatting.
Yeah, guys.
So that's also a change. And then now, I told myself, okay, breakfast cannot be more than 30 cedis. So there are times when I bought like a crate of egg, and in the morning when I'm hungry, okay, my camber 5, boom, chiboom. All right, that's, let's say 4 cedis, or no, about 3 cedis an egg, so that's 12 cedis. So that's what I eat in the morning, 4 eggs or 5 eggs, boiled or fried, I'm done. If I don't want to do that, I probably would go and get gobe by the roadside. Gobe 10 cedis, cocoa 5 cedis, that's 15 cedis, I'm full. All right, in the afternoon, I don't eat. Normally, I'll do something around 3-4 p.m. I'll buy fried yam. Okay, so instead of spending maybe 100 cedis in a day or 200 a day, I brought it down to about 50, 60 cedis. Now, I also eat out less. Because you go and buy tilapia, the popular joints, 150 cedis.
Yes.
All right.
And I remember that so well because I was shocked, right? So I had to do this presentation, so I had to go to a friend's place because of your stuff doing so. And so the last time I had bought, you know, I stay with my young sisters, right? And so I just give out money and then they go and buy stuff. And then what I see is just a lot of things in the house that we used to eat, just decreasing and not really ask questions. I just have to give some more money if I can, right? So I don't usually know the reality on the ground until I remember clearly buying tilapia, I think 2 years ago or so, for 50 cedis. And I went to ask tilapia, the guy says, this tilapia, which was half of the one I know, was 100 cedis. And I said, are you joking or what?
90 now. It's one.
I was like, are you joking or what?
Yeah.
Because I remember that,
yeah.
And I'm sorry to cut you.
Sorry.
Please, in my birthday 2 years ago, I mean, I bought tilapia, I think one.
I mean, you used to do parties.
Yes, like I did. I bought like 150 pieces of big tilapia.
And all of that. This year's birthday, I've not seen it.
I bought 150 pieces of tilapia.
Come. You know, come
In
here.
October.
You go do something?
I'm put up. 150 pieces of tilapia, right? So I was like, what? How is that? How is that? One piece of small tilapia is 100 cedis. It didn't make sense to me. I thought the guy was cheating me at that point because it was probably evening. But this is the reality. If you really look at the cost of living and how it's increased. And I like that he's shedding light and he's breaking it at that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, for me, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that is what I said in the beginning, that people have to change their lifestyles, right? And it's exemplary, the thing he said about the pork, right? It is not that obviously he wants to eat pork and get overly filled. It's something to get away from the stress
some
of
social
life,
kind of
social engagement. We eat and we chat. You've taken that away from him.
So his quality of life is
It's decreased, and this is what is going to make the ordinary person start thinking, right? The point of time that you used to sit with his best friend and eat tilapia, right now it's easy to think about his life, and he's getting sad, and he's getting depressed, and his BP is going high, but he still cannot get money to go to UGMC to pay for 1,000 cedis.
All four of us, Dutch passport versus PhD holder. Is that a sign of the very conversation we're having? That things are becoming so bad that we're equating a Dutch passport with a PhD in Ghana. Or in fact, we're not equating, we are elevating a Dutch passport above a Ghana PhD.
I mean, I would say it's not an either-or situation.
Definitely.
Right? I mean, if you can get a Dutch passport
And still have a PhD, that's right.
Because I think those who really go for PhD is not necessarily to increase their earning power. It's just, I'd want to be called a doctor. It's just prestige. It's a certain, I don't know whether they call it self-actualization or something, all right? Because really, to make it, you probably just need a master's degree. But there are people who are also academics. They love the pursuit of knowledge. All right, and I think those are the people who probably would go into PhD, academia, want to lecture someday. It just gives them a certain level of satisfaction. Because most of our lecturers, I'm sure, if they found themselves in certain things, would probably be more, they'll be richer than they are. But it's just that they're, you know, in my father's time, or in our father's, you know, teachers loved teaching. It wasn't because they were not smart. So they didn't venture into teaching because we're born. Or when Timmy Uncle, you know, sorry, he was unable to go to university. That's why he went to the training college.
Yeah.
No, they went to the university and they studied to become teachers. All right, so I'm just saying that it's not an either-or situation. So if you have a Dutch passport, don't think you're better than a PhD holder. It's a choice. But if you will get a Dutch passport or an American passport, look,
Go get it.
Go get it. Yes, I would pay $250,000 for another country's passport. I hear that's how much they pay.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to invest.
At least $100,000. Yes.
That's quite. I mean, you see, if you have $100,000,
St. Nevis and Kitts.
Yeah, I know there are countries that you could use that to get
Yeah.
citizenship and all that.
Yeah. So I mean, just to wrap up, so my friends can come in. I think it's that whole debate. You know, if it's put in proper context, it's not an either-or situation. That's what I think.
And I absolutely agree with him. I think that the person, if you watch your original video, the submission, it was a jest, right?
I think so.
And also, I think to him, he was equating the level of financial freedom and access to amenities, etc., that he has in that jurisdiction that he finds himself to what the ordinary Ghanaian would think is a height of personal attainment, right? So I think where there is that comparison, I think in his mind was a height of attainment here and a height of attainment there, that you would equate a height of attainment locally with someone who has a doctorate, with respect, prestige, right? And then a height of attainment there. I think where he gets it wrong is the economic impact, and that is where he says, and I agree with him, that people don't necessarily acquire PhDs
because they want to earn more,
to be well off, right? It is a pursuit of knowledge, wanting to contribute to the body of knowledge, wanting to go into academia and research, etc. That is what a PhD is about. And so that is where the comparison kind of veers off. But I think in the ideal, what this person wanted to do was to equate the height of achievement, right? And I think in his mind, the height of achievement is
a Dutch passport.
A Dutch passport that gives him some privileges of a stable income, quality education, and just having a well of life, right? And so you will see that for the mass majority of people, right, either Ghana or beyond, that is what really encapsulates their idea of a healthy life, right, of a fulfilled living. It's a living of a stable income, a country that is politically stable, that enables your growth socially, even if it is spiritually, if you have those inclinations, right? So bringing that together, you can see why the debate tilted overwhelmingly in the majority towards having a Dutch passport, because it is an exemplifying of what people would want to see in a country that kind of enables their growth. But it's in no way the same as a PhD, because what people want to see in their life is prosperity economically, but that is not what a PhD offers. But in the sense that it is a height of achievement, I guess you could make an argument to say that I would rather I get a passport that can help me move between countries, get access to some social and educational amenities, etc., than I would attain the height of an academic achievement that would not give me the same benefits. But it's not really.
But even the reality, and sorry, you see, for those, there are lots of people who live outside. When they come back, if you compare the quality of lives that we live here and them, we're a bit higher than them. And I'm going to explain that.
Yeah.
Because you see, when you are there, you're really at the bottom
barrel.
So you're
because I'm not Dutch.
Well, exactly. And you see, you can't just walk into a Marriott hotel or Sheraton.
You can't afford it.
You can't afford it.
Okay.
You can't afford it. But here, with the little I'm making, I can go to Kempinski, I can go to Movenpick, and have a certain class or level of lifestyle. I can go and sleep there. So you may be living in UK, US, Netherlands, but the level of your lifestyle is really, most of them when they come back.
They see you driving and say, hey, you bought this car?
I'm just holding myself back from using a word, but they seem to be 10 years back. Okay, so that you live there is not an assurance that your quality of life is going to increase. Because look, if you're cleaning toilets, and I'm just coming down to that level of debate, $15 or 15 euros by 8 hours by 31 days, that's about 3,600 euros. So if you do the math, if that's in USD, you're looking about 56,000 cedis. Now that
56,000 cedis a month.
But that 56,000 cedis,
that's a
your rent in the US, a 2-bedroom is about, you pay about $2,000, and that's even not in a very nice place. And $2,000 is out of your 3,600. You have 1,600 left. Food hasn't come, clothing hasn't come, transportation hasn't come, other utility bills. All right, so you may be earning 3,600, but at the end of the day, you're not saving a cent. I may be earning 20,000 here, and I'm paying a rent of maybe 2,000 cedis. Now, who is better off? So I think
this is the nuance in the conversation I want people to do before you come in, is that at the end of the day, right, it's about your ability to save money and get better opportunities to invest the money. And I think that is what creates wealth. And I can say with all authority, knowing the differences of the lifestyles, right, it is just the ease of being in London and being able to take the subway and the environment and just not the general apathy that we have. But I'm telling you for a fact that those people, they save no money. They save no money.
And they're stressed out. Look, you live in London, you live in a box like this.
Oh.
So when you wake up, you're seeing the wall. You have to go to work. I mean, I haven't lived out there before because I don't want to. I just travel and come back. You're in this cell.
But we've all traveled there. We know how it looks like.
So the stress that, I don't know who is as fresh. Have you seen any fresh?
Worship. Have you seen any fresh guy come out from out there? I hear when they're about to come, they stop some kind of work so that they look some kind of way, just so that when they come, you will see that guy.
You come to Ghana with $3,000. You blow it. You're going back and you have to start from ground zero.
Yeah, that I know. That I know for a fact. That I know. Worship.
I have to change the name of my company, Ground Zero, because
Ground Zero.
Dutch and
PhD.
Dutch passport and PhD. You know, when the conversation started, I decided not to comment much on it because I know that people are emotionally invested in the nuances, that, sprouted. The academics will come for your head for comparing, the highest level of education the qualifications anyone could attain to what they term as a mere passport. And the non-academics would also come for your head, that regardless of whatever qualification it is, if it is not giving you that necessary reflection in terms of your quality of life, then, it shouldn't start. And so, first, it's a false equivalence. I think all of us agree on that that's not a debate we even have in the first place, because those are two different things. Nonetheless, as intellectuals, I often don't want us to reductify conversations in a manner that reduces, the import that the message could be communicating solely because it's a false equivalent. Because we understand that these conversations unearth certain deductible notions that we must engage in regardless of, the nuances that we accommodate. And so truly, what was the message the gentleman was sending across? And I often like to see subsequent analysis from the same person to be able to agree that this is the trend and this is the situational logic and analogical context that a person wanted to position us. Essentially, just like Thier said, the comparison necessarily was not premised on anything relating to qualification. It was just, juxtaposing the quality of life that one thing could give you that another would not give you. And the truth really is that as Africans, we're sold a dream that go to school and you would make it. And so the general idea for everybody who is going to school and seeking education is to be able to be relieved and, economically be independent. That really is the truth. That is the dream we're sold. Only that, yes, within that process, there are certain stages where the concern is not really economic independence, like, PhD, where the focus is on pursuit of knowledge and all of that. But ordinarily, everybody who is going to school is sold that dream that go for it. When you go to school, you would make it. And so for people who have gone to school, gone through to get a degree, to get a master's, and are not getting the commensurate quality of life here, leave out and get much more without even having to use any level of qualifications, that comparison would come. And so if you listen to a number of the nuanced conversations that we're having, it is that why should we, in a society where the expectation is that those who are able to attain some level of education should be able to live well, are not living well. But if you go to another country, those who are not even educated are getting a comfortable life. And so the conversation really, for me, this is the deductible notion that has been unearthed, that I don't want us to avoid just because of false equivalence, that the objective is quality of life. And even if he's made a mistake in the comparison, let's put it aside. What really is the quality of life in Ghana here as compared to other places?
Which is a conversation we're actually having.
And that's what we're having. And I a little bit, disagree with some of the analysis in terms of the expenses, that was made. And that is because of, what Isaac said, that truly cash flow is the reality. because people don't understand much, they are okay with how much they see pass through their hands. You understand that? People are concerned with how much the cash, how much flow is passing through their hands, for which reason they will be comfortable, they'll be okay. And so for the person who is earning, let's say, the $5,000, who has paid $2,000 rent, and perhaps has about something meager left to spend on in terms of food, transportation, and all of that, that person, albeit box within that, expenses, the person still has certain access to other amenities that are accompanying. I mean, I don't want to use UK because even though I've not been to UK before, the conversation really is that no matter how much you earn, you're still going to spend more. So I want to use other countries where at least, even if you're earning more, there's still some little around you can use to, turn yourself around and all of that. What they can say would be chawungakra. You understand that? So the person still has certain amenities like the US that the person can still enjoy. The person still has a certain social life that they can benefit from. You understand that? The person has a myriad of jobs the person could do. Here, there's no job to even do.
That's not true, but I guess we'll come there.
We'll come there because that's the next part of the conversation.
There are jobs.
Are there opportunities in
jobs.
this land?
They're huge opportunities.
I agree with you. I think I would have to agree.
Let's go there.
Okay.
I mean, what are the opportunities?
I have a problem.
Can you do 2-3 jobs in Ghana?
I do probably 10, 15 jobs.
Oh man.
And I'm a streets person.
Let's listen to
You see, my point is that you don't go to school to be employed. You go to school to develop your mind so that you can create something, you can build something. All right, so until we get to a place where I'm going to school, or I'm not going to school so that when I come, NIB would employ me, or MTN would employ me.
why NIB?
Because you worked at NIB. Or some bank.
Yeah.
We go to university, we want to come out and be employed by like a big corporation.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the beginning of our problem. Bill Gates never thought of going to Harvard and wanting to be employed by a tech company after that. He wanted to start something by himself, I'm sure. Facebook, all the people who have really made it were not dependent on somebody giving them a job. It was about, let me develop my mind, let me see a need in society that I can proffer or offer a solution to. You see, when I left corporate, I was tired. I said, okay, I'll sell wache. Because I looked around East Legon, there was no night wache here. So I set up PM Wache, which was an evening wache in East Legon. I ran it for about a year and a half, but then the economic situation a year or two ago hit me so hard because, like he talked about, every day you went to the market, prices were going up. But you can't also change your prices.
No, if you do, we won't come again.
Yeah. So we're making good money, but the reserves we're having to plow back into the business. So at some point, you've got to be smart and say, cut your losses, shut the business
Cash flow,
down,
bro.
Shut it down, and save and keep what you have. So I was into food, because everybody eats. Then I also went into selling watches, like wrist watches, all right? Because I know people, you have your phone so you can check your time here. So watches have become more of a dressing accessory.
Exactly.
But people also love watches. So I was like, okay, there's a market for that. So I went into that. I went into shoes. I went into clothing. So that's like 4 things I'm doing. Then I said, okay, Instagram was, I became familiar with Instagram. So I saw a lot of pages. This page selling furniture, this page selling gym equipment, selling that. So what I did was, and because of where I used to work, I had a certain network, and so I would pick some of these images from, and I have to verify that there's an original watch. This is furniture that's coming from the US or Italy. These shoes are from Italy. And so I pick these, I put them on my status. I'll call and check for the prices. I'll put them on my status. My friends, they watch my status. So every day I might have about 15 posts. So somebody may be putting jokes and silly things on their status. I was making money from my status. I didn't have a shop. So I'll send, there are people who wake up and I've sent them about 50 pictures of products cutting across.
You became like an aggregator.
Exactly. Okay. I made money from that and I still make money from that. Then I said, okay, there's real estate. I could be a broker or I could be the one building. So I ventured into that. And I said, okay, I can also do branding and marketing. So I applied, I did a little proposal, sent it to some companies. Look, if you want to do physical branding, 3D, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know how to fabricate anything, but I have friends who do that. So if I get the contract, I take it to them. They do it, I take my money. Yesterday, I met somebody who has a printing press, and I was like, whoa, okay. There are schools who need exercise books, and I'm sharing ideas. Anybody can pick. And they want their school logo and things on these exercise books. Okay, this guy says, look, I can print 250,000 books a day because I have the equipment. I'm like, whoa. So I start calling friends in business. I'm like, hey, I can do cards, I can do calendars, I can do diaries, I can do exercise books for friends who have schools and things like that. That's another venture of making money. Okay.
So Kofi, your point is that?
So my point is that the opportunities are just too many. It is about finding, passion is key. I love selling, maybe that's it. I see money in anything. I mean, when we are done, I'm going to take your numbers, and tomorrow you'd see I'll send you pictures of items I'm selling.
He's doing more than two. He is farming. He's a pharmacist. He's into very soon. He'll be lawyer Adam. Are we saying the average Ghanaian has access to these opportunities?
They do.
So I'm coming to that.
In fact, I don't want to even cut Isaac, but he disagrees with my point, but comes to the same point in the end that the dream we are sold, particularly in Africa, with the concept of education, is the wrong narrative.
You don't go to school to make money.
It does not make you an entrepreneur. A number of people just go, by reason of acquiring the qualifications, assume that they should get work. And that's the problem. If you compare the likes of Bill Gates and all of that, those are two contextual differences. These are people who brought us education for us to assume that, okay, this is a way that we can break through. These are people who understood that they should rather use education to create change.
No. Well, you see, when you talk about education in our context, is going to school.
And that's my point. Is that dream was sold?
Well, okay.
You go to school to get a job.
Let me not cut you.
You go to school to get a job. No, you're absolutely right. You go to school to get a job.
But what must be is that you educate yourself.
And I agree with that.
We agree. He's saying that is what is supposed to be. But what is that go to school and get a job?
Because I mean, when I was young, in fact, when I finished senior high school and I was home, come from very humble beginning, there was nothing at home and all of that. My mom would say, to school now, senior high school now, when won't be finding what could the university but you already have to media. School na ko pay BBU. School na bit me aboa. So when I wear normal stuff and I say I'm going to my office, my mom looks at me because when I wear the tie,
yeah, you're gonna wear. Yeah, you're gonna wear.
Okay. But when I wear the normal one, it's the narrative. It's the narrative that has been created in our mind. And in many of the homes locally, the narrative is go to school.
Get a job.
Go to school. And so what they also enter school with is that thing. And they believe, and the educational system is tiring. So people assume that going through that 4 years of researching, writing ideas and doing this and all of that, at the end of the day, the hope is that the reality hits them when they start with NSS.
So
are there opportunities available for the average Ghanaian?
I think that, opportunities, right, are a matter of perspective and mindset, right? And so we
come back to the same mindset.
So you could always find something.
Create yours.
You could always create something. Where I differ from, and this is my first differentiation from everything he said, is that there are a couple of 3 things I saw in his submission which enabled these creations that he's been able to. And congratulations on all of that. But first, you had the context of having been in corporate, you said, right? Second is that you have a passion for selling, so you have the agency that exists. You repeatedly said network a couple of times that enabled these things to happen. And so I imagine from corporate, right, you had a backlog of some fans, right?
No.
Zero.
But
I started from 0.
I won't buy that.
No.
Like, nobody who has $0.
Where 0 means?
No.
Where's zero mean?
It's the honest truth. 0.
Or 0 is a matter of perspective.
No, 0.
Because
zero is like zero.
See,
That's not just what I
because
do.
you work in a place, you receive a salary, right? So again, I do not know the nitty-gritties of your life.
You see,
Yes,
that's
but
the problem.
I'm coming.
When you have a salary, if you're not disciplined, you can't save.
Yes,
Because you see,
definitely.
at the end of
And
the
I
month,
understand that.
you know a beba.
Yes.
Definitely.
And sorry for. So
No, yeah.
so it was from 0.
Are there no guys who would wake up with real 0? Maybe not.
Mine is 0. It was 0.
With real 0.
Yeah.
With Kofi 0.
No, with real 0. Go to Tema Station, right? Probably walk from Zongo Lane area or walk from even Dansuman and come to Tema Station and walk among the stores, their own guys. Charlie, this is your t-shirt to be how much? Okay, 20 Ghana. Okay. Pick that same t-shirt and it come. Stand by the roadside, sell it for 50, take the 30, bring the guys 20 to him. They started from 0.
Yep.
Why are you saying his is not? So they are real zeros. That's what I'm just trying to say.
I'm just saying that, right? He has.
Okay, should I give you my 0 story? Maybe I should give my 0 story.
Right? He has qualities that the average person doesn't have. I think that while we push the narrative of entrepreneurship, we should also know that there are some qualities that you have to garner over time that enable that. All learnable though. All learnable.
What makes you not earn an extra income is laziness.
Here we go.
It's as simple as that. Or it's
And this is a very
it's-
sensitive,
it's
statement that
I get you, but I was just
Look,
going
if you what you just said sounds exactly like Dutch passport.
sounds very political. Like,
It is something that can go into a whole social media.
No, you see, if you're crying that you're hungry or I'm not making enough, and that in itself doesn't drive you, let me share an example. I'm in church. There are people who come to me every time for transportation. So one day I sat all of them down. I'm like, listen, do you know how I make money? I'm not into Sakawa. Nobody sends me money from the US. This is what I do. I post things on my status. I said, 99% of the things you see me post on my status, I don't import them. I don't own them. I don't know how they got into Ghana. But that's how I make money from. And I said, can I give you same pictures and products to also put up on your status? They say yes. I give it to them. 3-4 days. Oh, nobody is asking about the things. Oh, people are saying the prices are high. And I said, it took 1 year consistency for me to do that before I got my first sale. 1 year of posting every single day.
What were you eating in that time?
Well, wache, because I sold wache. But my real ground zero story, I'll tell later. But I'm just saying that if my saying lazy is insensitive, I will take it back. But I'm just saying that you cannot live a comfortable life if you're not hardworking.
Definitely.
Maybe that's what I was trying
work
to
your
say.
head off.
I mean, I work at least 12 hours a day.
12 midnight as at this morning, I was doing deliveries.
I mean, I was up at 3 a.m. having a call with someone. in Japan.
Gentlemen, this is exciting. Can we commit our executive producer so that we continue this conversation next week, if you're available?
I'm very much for it, but at the end of the day,
Because I want us to tackle this issue of opportunities, so that when we come next week, We're talking real opportunities so that we help somebody.
Honestly, we can touch on it next week. But I very much like Isaac's expression because I hold the same logic. Opportunity is circumstantial and it's perspective. All of us here have been able to do a number of the things we've been able to do because of certain circumstances that we're thrust into, certain places by grace or by luck,
by chance or something.
We're able to enter there and all of that. And all of these contexts have a way of working on your mindset for you to be able to be capable to do certain things. And so a number of people are incapable, not because they are lazy or not because of anything else. It's because they've not been
the circumstances
to some of these things. And these are largely big.
That's also holding brief for non-achievement. Now, I'm going to.
You see why this conversation must.
I'm going to push the boundaries because you see,
it's rather simplistic.
there are people who have had my opportunity
and still couldn't make anything out of it,
and still don't make money.
It's not an argument for those who have less. And that's
God is the ultimate, and I'm big on faith.
Very much.
All right, I'm big on faith.
He is
good, but my point is that God gives equal air, equal breath, not equal life, but He gives us the world, the universe. All right. Why you know more of the Bible than me is because you spend more time studying the Word of God. The Bible is there. If I don't make the effort to, I will not know.
Gentlemen, this conversation will continue next week. Something else, but we need to prove to the average Ghanaian that there are opportunities as they are.
Yes, my final line is, again, I think that if you came out of university, right, it will be difficult for you to start an enterprise, right? I know this because when my sister wanted to do that, I had to capitalize that business. And if you don't have someone who's going to capitalize for you, I still find it difficult to come from this perspective. Even in his case, right, I still feel like a certain network that he has, etc. And some other conditions, but this is what I would say, irrespective. I would say that if you're a young person listening to me, and I've been reflecting on this a lot, you should invest in the relationships that you are building. Right.
Invest in the relationships you are building right now. So says Isaac Aboa, who happens to be the MD of Mellow Technologies. He was also here with Kofi Ansah, an entrepreneur, and then Worship Joshua Frimpong, the co-founder and MD of Adani Chemist. The conversation was getting interesting, but we have just a minute to go for the 10 a.m. news with Bole. All too soon, this week's edition of Z in the Morning is coming to an end. Next week we'll continue. Pray like it only depends on God, we always tell you. But work like it only depends on you. Take this opportunity to also wish my beautiful daughter in Kunim Hao happy birthday. You're a big girl now. We'll have that conversation at home. People will do this again next week. Bole comes up with 10 a.m. news. Your tune.